hill's been silent, the field's gone dry, the factory gates locked without goodbye. But I hear the echo, the hammer's song, in the hearts of the weary, where we belong. We build the world, but they hold the crown. We rise together, or they'll drag us down. Oh, red sky at dawn, the fight is near. The hands of the many will cast out fear. No gold can chain what the heart holds true. Proletarian pride will see us through. They ship our sons to fight their wars, while greed sits grinning behind closed doors. But the earth remembers, the rivers cry, the seeds of change won't ever die. We till the land, we sow the seams, but justice waits in our shared dreams. Oh, red sky at dawn, the fight is near. The hands of the many will cast out fear. No gold can chain what the heart holds true. Proletarian pride will see us through. In the cornfield haze where the tractors hum, a thinker stands where the ideas come. With a straw in his mouth and a book in his hand, Midwestern Marx takes a radical stand. Oh, he's plowed the fields of the mind, seeds of change in the heart you'll find. Dancing through the night with sparks in the dark,
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a very special stream, Suns Out, Guns Out stream, because we're going to be taking on some right-wingers today, breaking down what's going on with the American right since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and the rise and maybe already the fall of Nick Fuentes. We'll see. I'll lay out everything that happened, and we'll break it down. Noah and I will give some commentary, and we'll also show you some of the best tweets that I've seen this week dunking on Nick Fuentes, because there are a lot of them. It feels like everything we post this week, Noah, is blowing up, so long as it's dunking on Nick Fuentes and pointing out his hypocrisy and pointing out his turn towards more establishment politics in a time of crisis. But yeah, you got anything to say in our little intro here?
Fuck that frog boy.
Fuck that frog boy. All right, boys, we're going to be cooking this frog. We're going to be eating frog legs for dinner tonight, and we'll get right into it after this introduction.
High Sheriff Hazard is a hard man to be. High Sheriff is his only plan. He digs through pockets, takes what he can. For he's High Sheriff Hazard. He caught me one evening, and here's what he said. You look like a Russian, you look like a red. And if you're fond of your skin and your head, beware the High Sheriff of Hazard. The answer is simple, the answer is clear. We all get together, ain't got nothing to fear. We throw the old bastard right out on his ear. Farewell to High Sheriff Hazard.
All righty then.
What's up, everybody? We're back.
We are back.
And I'm back.
Noah's back.
Yeah, so that should be exciting. It's certainly exciting for me. I'm also usually not awake this late at night. But Eddie was like, yo, I'm going to stream. And I'm like, you know what? I will too. So here we are. And it's been a really wild few days, honestly. The temperature in our country is going up, and it seems like this is precisely what the ruling class wants. And we're talking a lot about Frog Boy Fuentes, right? And I don't know, it just seems fishy to me when these so-called dissidents are repeating the exact same narrative as the entire ruling class that they say they're against, right? It always will come down to, like, never listen to the way someone describes themselves, right? Never listen to what they say they are or what they say their beliefs are. Always look at what's underneath that. What are the real world applications of what they're saying? And the real world application of this establishment narrative is to get all us regular people fighting against each other, so we're not looking at them. Same story as it always is, you know?
Absolutely. And that's exactly why they benefit from this situation, whether it is whether it was a planned deep state hit or not. You know, same with 9/11, you know, whether that was an inside job or not, it served the interests of the ruling class. I'm trying to, Noah, if you could pull up Jackson's tweet where he lays out all the evidence of deep state involvement. I can't find it for some reason. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. Let me look for it.
Yeah, we're going to go through Jackson's Twitter just a little bit later today and kind of talk about the evidence that there could have been deep state involvement, where people are siding on that. Because, you know, the left and right distinction in America is, in a lot of ways, it's crumbling. And then in a lot of ways, it's like concretizing. Like,
you know, we should talk about that too, because that's really important, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get into that quite a bit. I think as we get into the specifics of who's siding with who on this. But first of all, who would win in a fight, Haas or you? See, that's not a fair question because you have to give the conditions that the fight would take place in. You have to give the environment. If we're talking like a wrestling match or a sanctioned MMA match, I mean, I've trained for that my entire life. Haas has done other kind of training. If we go to the weight room, I almost guarantee you that Haas could lift more than me. But if we're in like a guerrilla warfare scenario with like guns and stuff, you know, all bets are off. Like, who knows how it would fare in that kind of situation. So, interesting question. Maybe we'll have like a world's strongest man competition one day as a fundraiser. I'll get to
the more important angle though, Eddie, is in any fight, we're on the same side as Haas.
Yes, exactly. That's the real answer to that question is how many groypers can me and Haas take out together if we're fighting back to back, you know, like an anime with
quite a few.
Thousands of people charging at us.
I guarantee I could take 50 with this hand and then 50 with this. If you ever seen pictures of them, they're like the saddest looking clowns in the world.
Even the mascot that they chose, like the frog, they always post these like pathetic, like beer gut looking frogs, and they're like, "This is us."
Do you think they chose that because Fuentes looks like a frog?
Probably.
I feel like maybe they did.
The weakest animal. They were trying to be accurate, and they were, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Jackson posts so much. I'm still scrolling.
I know. This post got like 60,000 likes. Let me get into this though before we start breaking down everything that we have to talk about today. Every single person I've ever seen talk about IQ has been straight up slow in the brain. It's a good way to show who is dumb. I have found the same thing, and I do not understand the obsession with IQ. I know it's like a cognitive test, right? It's supposed to measure how sharp you are or whatever, how fast you can think. But I swear, like, my experience in life has taught me that the view of intelligence that's the most correct is that there are different kinds of intelligence. Now, yes, I think there can be like a general form of intelligence, like, you know, intelligent people might be more likely, or people who are generally intelligent and who are pretty much good at anything they apply themselves to. Maybe they'll do a little bit better on an IQ test, right? But I have known so many amazing wrestlers who are so incredibly intelligent athletically, who are just dumbasses in every other way, who couldn't do math, who couldn't read a full book. And I know people who are like that with hunting. I know people who are like that with their job. You know, they can lay concrete like a mother. But if you ask them to solve a math problem and you don't put it in terms of, you know, like a concrete related word problem, they're not going to be able to give you the answer. So I don't know about this IQ test thing. I'm quite skeptical that the IQ test measures how much you know about politics. But Battle Cossack, thank you. Fuentes being sued for defamation. His accusations are serious and could easily be taken to court if they get out of hand. That's true. That's true. I need to give you guys the full breakdown here in a second of what happened, because this is actually true. I don't know. We probably don't have the money for it or anything, but like if it were taken to court, I don't know if he would get. It's hard to prove defamation, but he's made some defamatory claims. Would you sue Nick Fuentes for defamation? Probably not right now, just because we have other places where we need to focus our limited resources versus a lawsuit with somebody who could have the backing of the state, which means you're never going to beat him in a lawsuit. But yeah, he did make some defamatory accusations, and we'll get into that. I actually have to go grab my notebook because I have everything written down in there. But Noah, you want to take over for a second?
Yeah, that's fine. I found one of Jackson's posts on it, so we'll bring that up as soon as Eddie gets back. But also don't forget, despite Frog Boy himself like talking about how we're funded by Russia or whatever, we have really no money, and this kid has never actually had a job. He's never had to work. He's a rich kid, so a lot of the time in lawsuits, it's really just about how much money you have. People out-lawyer you all the time, and the truth, honestly, sadly, matters very little. Remember that we live in a capitalist country, you know?
Absolutely. Very true. We could show that Jackson post in a second. I just want to break down the timeline for everybody and explain what's going on right now since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Because some people may not follow the American right that closely. I don't blame you if you don't. I've learned a lot about the American right this week. Haas gave us a little lesson the other day that was, I think we were all like, wow, I didn't know that these divisions existed with the right-wing extremists. But it's good to know, especially as, you know, these groups may have seemed irrelevant in the past, but they're not irrelevant anymore. I mean, I know this comparison is tired and worn out, but like we really are like in the Weimar Republic right now, like pre-Nazi Germany or pre-Bolshevik Revolution, you know, where things can go either way. And in that time, the politics drift towards the extremes. You're going to get the extreme right because people don't want moderation anymore. They don't want centrism anymore. They'll pretty much accept anything except for the current system. So you get extremes on the right, and then, of course, you get extremes on the left, which is the revolutionary communist left that actually has the ability to transform this situation for the better. But anyways, we're in a situation like that right now. Our government and media have no legitimacy. Everybody's living paycheck to paycheck, and then everyone's at each other's throats, and then Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. So before this happened, Nick Fuentes was going after Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, right? And it was kind of like a radical left versus center left thing. But even more than that, it was like a generational thing. It was Nick Fuentes saying, you know, I've been JQing forever since I started, and I've been blackballed from the Republican establishment for JQing, which he's very resentful about. And that resentment came out in his sort of struggle session with Candace and Tucker, because, of course, they were establishment mouthpieces for their entire career. Their careers were created by the corporate media before they went rogue and started criticizing Israel. So Fuentes was basically saying, like, I've been here from the beginning. I've been suffering from the consequences of not being boosted by the Zionist lobby from the beginning. You guys are late to the party, and now you want to criticize me. And to be real, people did side with Nick on that. I'll just be honest. Like the extreme right sided with Nick. I saw some of the anti-establishment left even, you know, saying, well, he's got a point there. He had the public on his side, which was crazy to see someone that young and that extreme in their ideas to be kind of getting the better of Candace and Tucker, these two who have been seen as heroes of the anti-establishment right, if you even want to call it that. Do you have something to say, Noah? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really say anything. I try to like if the right wing is going to tear itself apart, I say let them. You know what I mean? But look, I found the timing of his attacks suspicious. And anyone who follows me or follows us should know this. I've been saying this from the beginning. Fuentes is a Zionist. He is a Zionist op in some way. Stop paying attention to the surface level of his rhetoric and think about the timing. Think about the actual real world outcomes here, right? When did he attack Candace Owens? When she started being critical of Israel. When did he attack Tucker Carlson? When he started being critical of Israel, right? And this is just recent. But why would Elon Musk, right after he goes to the fake country of Israel itself and looks at that stupid crib thing, why would he reinstate the biggest neo-Nazi influencer around, right? Not because he loves free speech. Plenty of others were still banned, right? He reinstated Fuentes for a reason. You just gotta just stop. I know people are like, yeah, but he JQs. Who cares if he JQs?
The JQ helps them,
right?
What helps make Israel's argument that all of their critics are actual anti-Semites more than a critic of Israel, a leading critic of Israel on the right, being actually anti-Semitic and actually hating them because they're Jews and he wants a white Christian Israel?
Exactly.
I mean, that helps their narrative.
And not only that, Eddie, not only that, it also plays into their attempt to take ownership over all Jewish people everywhere in the world, right? Because he conflates Zionism and Judaism and says it's something integral about being Jewish that is bad, rather than Zionism, finance capital, etc., the real causes of all the destruction. That plays into the original propaganda scheme. I mean, Herzl said this himself. He said that the anti-Semites will be their best friends and the anti-Semitic countries their greatest allies. This is very basic stuff. The real actual political alignment is far different than any rhetoric any politician or influencer is ever spinning for you.
Absolutely. This guy in the comment section who's saying that Kissinger loved Marx, and I tried to tell him about the Trotskyite to neocon pipeline. He says, read books. Brother, you need to read the books. You need to learn what Trotskyism is, and I'm going to put you in a timeout until you figure that out. We are not Trots. We are Stalinists. We have pointed out many times through rigorous research and lots of time writing how so many so-called Marxists, Trotskyite Marxists, ended up in the ruling class, influencing ruling class individuals like Kissinger. And we've done that in order to show why we are different from that and why we oppose Trotskyism and why we see it as another form of ruling class politics, just like we see your JQ Nick Fuentes ideology as another, another version of ruling class politics, another arm of the ruling class. But anyways.
And I mean, Kissinger was a philosophy guy to begin with. They recruited him from a literal college where he was teaching philosophy classes.
And if I was in the ruling class, I would study Marx too. I would be like, oh yeah, all of history is class struggle. I'm just fighting on the evil side. I'm fighting on the opposite side of Marx. That's why Trotskyites make such good neocons, because they understand Marxism and it helps them, keep the working class down.
That's 100% how Kissinger was. He was studying Mao intently.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it wasn't because he supported Mao, obviously.
People get this weird idea that they can only read things and study things they agree with. It's the dumbest thing in the world to me.
Yeah. So anyways, Nick Fuentes kind of gets the better of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. Then Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Everybody goes crazy for a couple days and doesn't know how to feel. And Nick Fuentes comes out hard in support of state crackdowns. He's saying, even though he said things in the past like, I fucked Charlie Kirk's organization, TPUSA, and impregnated it. Charlie Kirk is dead. I own Charlie Kirk. He's my bitch, blah, blah, blah. Even though he said all of this hateful stuff about Charlie Kirk in the past, he comes out and pretends to be the champion of Charlie Kirk and, what in comparison to him is the moderate right wing. And what in America really is like a moderate right when you compare him to these schizo psychos. So anyways, Fuentes comes out and calls for mass state crackdowns, right? Calling for censorship and, not even thinking at all about who's going to enforce that. Or maybe he is thinking about it and he wants Palantir and the Trump administration to just arrest all of their enemies and surveil us and create a database on us, which is what he's pushing for objectively right now by pushing for more state crackdowns. So he immediately comes out in support of that, starts I see all these right-wingers on Twitter talking about how he's matured because his rhetoric is so much more soft towards the establishment. And all these other people, these other establishment right-wing figures who previously wouldn't give Fuentes the time of day, like Matt Walsh and Tim Pool, start elevating him and supporting him and saying that he's matured and he's the leader of the right wing now because he's going, saying we should arrest anybody who didn't, mourn and cry for Charlie Kirk, which, people were saying crazy things about him and really callous things that were, like show no respect for human life. And that was feeding the right wing, giving them ammunition to do this. But that's what Nick Fuentes helped with that. He helped cheer this on, said that these people should be jailed. And all of a sudden he gets the support of the establishment right. And all of a sudden, this Gray Zone article comes out. This article from Max Blumenthal, where he talked to people who were close to Charlie Kirk, where he doesn't say anything for sure, and neither are we, of course. But he lays out that in Charlie Kirk's last days, he was turning on Israel a little bit. He rejected a massive donation from Israeli donors, which really pissed off the Israelis. And he was open with people that he feared for his life. He feared that Israel would retaliate in some way. So certain people, including our comrade Jackson Hinkle, as well as Candace and Tucker, start promoting this story and saying, same thing we're saying. I'm not saying what happened. We don't know what happened. We need more information. We'll probably never know what happened. However, this act benefits all of Israel's interests, and they had motive to do it. And Charlie Kirk was scared about that at the end of his life. And Fuentes begins calling this a conspiracy theory, saying there's absolutely no evidence, which actually turns a bunch of his own audience against him because they feel that there is evidence and that he should be looking into this theory. But not only does he say there's absolutely no chance that it's Israel and this is a conspiracy and this is stupid, which gets his audience to turn on him, or a lot of his audience to turn on him and put L's in his chat, which is hilarious. But then he also comes out and starts trying to accuse others like Jackson Hinkle, Haz al-Din, the infrared community, and then tries to lump them in with Max Blumenthal, who, Nick derides just because he's Jewish, of course, and says, he's coming up with this conspiracy theory about Israel because he's Jewish. And then lumps in Tucker and Candace and says these people are all connected to Russia. This is some kind of Russian plot. So he does the Rachel Maddow. He says, no, it's not Israel's influence in your country that you should be worried about. It's Russia's influence. Again, the same thing that the U.S. State Department and the CIA and the FBI have been saying for the last couple decades.
Russiagate 2.0.
Literally, he's doing Russiagate. So in the midst of that, his viewership went way down, and Candace is pulling like 200 to 300,000 concurrent viewers on her streams, talking about the Israeli angle and the fact that Israel could have been involved. And this is someone who's a former friend of Charlie Kirk. Same with Tucker Carlson. Whereas Fuentes was somebody who shit on Charlie Kirk when he was alive and then opportunistically tried to use his death to elevate himself and elevate his own career, while calling Candace the grifter, saying Candace is grifting off of the situation by reporting what she believes could be potential Israeli involvement. In reality, he's, of course, grifting off of the situation and throwing everybody's attention in the wrong direction.
Look, it's such a disgusting, scummy, opportunistic move. And I think a lot of people don't really realize what low, scummy degenerates these influencers are, especially kids like Fuentes. Right? Yeah. Think about that. He hated Charlie Kirk the entire time the guy was alive. And then goes along with the establishment narrative, boosting up his views, which means money in his pocket, fame for him, off of this guy getting murdered. They change with the wind based on what will get them fame. That's what I'm trying to explain here. Now, who knows if he, got the call or not? I tend to think maybe he did, because,
or I tend to think he maybe always was. They had him on speed dial.
Well, yeah,
I think,
yeah.
you know, that's
It was like a
potential
call for
too.
a pivot, right?
Yeah.
But either way, while saying that kind of thing and calling for like mass arrests and surveillance of this vague thing called the left, and we can get into Trump's thing on Anita or whatever later,
Yeah.
but it's just, I don't know. I don't want to ramble on it, but it's just really a disgusting thing that you gotta look through shit like that. You really do.
Well, what you said earlier is so true and so important. I'm telling you guys, especially if you're young, maybe if you're older, you understand this. But I've been around these influencers through TikTok and being one myself. You do not realize how opportunistic and scummy a lot of these people are. Some of them are genuine, right? Some of them are, but the ones who get really big are usually getting that big through some kind of money, right?
Yeah.
Or the people who are able to push out high quality, well produced content all the time. There's money behind that, both so they don't have to work and they can just make videos all the time, like we have to work. And then, you know, also like helping people edit and produce their videos. It's incalculable how much time that saves, whereas we have to use volunteers and
Right.
edit stuff ourselves, right? So a lot of these people are boosted up, and you have no idea how slimy and scummy and just self-motivated they are. They do not care about politics. These people like Harry Sisson. Okay, I've known Harry for the last like 5 or 6 years. We used to be mutuals. We used to follow each other. And then when Biden got elected, right, Harry during Trump was pretending to be more of a socialist, like anti-war, critical of the Democrats. And then when Biden got elected, he preemptively blocked me on TikTok, and we had been mutuals for a while because he was going to make a video supporting Biden's bombing of Syria, and he knew that I was going to cook him for it, right? So this is someone who would pretend to be your friend when you were on the same side. And then as soon as a Democrat gets in office, he made the conscious decision, I am selling out. I am going hard for Biden. I'm going to support everything he does, including bombing the Middle East. And then everybody who, you know, will criticize me for that, I'll block them so I don't even have to deal with it. And I can just make my money. And look at him now, 4 or 5 years later, I'm still working a regular job while I do my content. He's a paid op, essentially, for the Democratic Party. So that's how these people operate. And Fuentes is much smarter than Harry Sisson, admittedly so. He's, as a grifter, he knows how to operate in the space that he's in, and he has his own subculture, which helps to boost him in times of crisis or anytime there's a situation like this. So, you know, what Noah said is so true. You have to divorce your feelings when it comes to these people. Even with Candace and Tucker, you know, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, you know, a little bit biased towards certain journalists, like, I don't know, Glenn Greenwald or Aaron Mate or Max Blumenthal. They're a little different because they are genuine, right? But even with them, you know, when they put out reporting, you have to try and look at it as objectively as possible. Even with their Israel reporting, I know people who don't agree with it, you know, and we've been having those conversations behind the scenes. And I think that's good to be skeptical of anything that's put out. But what the problem now is people have these parasocial relationships with influencers, and they think that these influencers would never lie to them because they seem so nice on stream. No, they are. There's so much going on behind the scenes, and almost all of these people are just in it for themselves.
Yeah, everything they say is completely cynical.
Yep.
And you know what's funny? Besides, like, in my experience at least, most of the frog kids being fake accounts in some way, like, you know, like random picture, 3 followers, 14 followers, whatever, that kind of thing. We all sort of understand on an abstract level that politics in itself, all politicians, news people, etc., are cynical and saying and reading scripts and doing what they need to get other goals accomplished, saying one thing and meaning another. But then we don't apply that abstract knowledge when it's happening in the concrete world. And that's a disconnect that I think comes from the information age and this sort of bombardment with information that we have these days, that like you just can't parse it all. So it just gets absorbed and consumed like that. But I
it's
don't
good
know.
to try and take breaks from social media and read or do anything really, especially read though, if you want to learn politics.
Dude, what is up with the fucking the weird trolls in the chat today?
Oh, it's because we're talking about
They're
either
saying the
frog
dumbest
queen.
shit I've ever seen in my life.
We're talking about their frog queen, probably.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark Pugliese, new member. All right, shout out. You guys get a bunch of benefits if you're a member. You get like emojis or something like that, and then you get Carlos's book, The Purity Fetish, and I believe Why We Need American Marxism too. So make sure you check out the benefits that come with being a member. Same to you, Snipey McSendit. Appreciate all of our members, and those benefits are also available on patreon.com/MidwesternMarx, and Patreon will take far less of your money than what YouTube does. Thank you both for becoming members, though. Battle Cossack with another super chat from Argentina. What's funny to me is that the Groypers accuse us of being leftist, trans, and furry when they are the same leftists who constantly accuse us of being transphobes and white supremacists. That's what Haas was saying yesterday on his debate stream. Like, people were saying that he's known for, promoting identity politics and like liberal left extremism, and Haas, it's like, literally just search my name on Wikipedia. My people are known for the opposite. We're called transphobes every day. Yeah, it's wild. The right is calling us trans and the left is calling us anti-trans. So guess we're just stuck in the middle of a bunch of retards, huh? Ja, $50. Thank you very much, my friend. That is a huge donation.
Thank you.
That is really generous. Thank you, comrade. Nick said that even if TR wasn't the perp, Tyler Robinson wasn't the perp, leftists still celebrated, and that deserves a crackdown. Many Christians, quote unquote, celebrated MLK's death. He just against Jew communism for his white Christian nation. Absolutely. He knows what's going on here. And he knows that this is his opportunity to push for state crackdowns. And it's these people who have built their entire careers around the First Amendment. These people who have built their entire careers around, the right to speech and the right to say what you want, even if it offends people. Now they're using this as their opportunity to say no, just like they used 9/11 to implement the Patriot Act and strengthen the NSA's spying powers.
Hey, I'll be right back, brother.
Okay. When people are highly emotional like this, it's a great time to take away, what we consider to be their civil liberties, their rights that have been fought for through struggle. So that's exactly how they're using this. And it's just amazing to see the hypocrisy. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because, where were these people? Where were these free speech warriors when I got banned on TikTok 7 times, or when Jackson got banned from every platform except X? Where were they? They were nowhere to be found when our people were being debanked and stuff. They only ever cared about when Ben Shapiro was having his speaking engagements protested by college students. That was the only infringement on free speech they ever cared about. But now they're openly calling for these crackdowns, openly calling for people on the left to be jailed. Nick Fuentes is telling Jackson Hinkle that he is going to jail, full stop. You are going to jail for, encouraging this person to shoot Charlie Kirk somehow, which I have no evidence for, but you're going to jail. Just trust me, buddy. And it's not like they're advocating for a dictatorship of the proletariat, right? It's not like they're advocating for corporate warmongers to be thrown in jail. They're not arguing for like Netanyahu and his slaves in Washington, D.C. to be thrown in jail, like maybe we would after the working class seizes power. He's calling for regular people to be thrown in jail by the current government, the current state, the state which we all know is deeply influenced by Israel and is completely controlled by Wall Street, big banks, and corporate money. And in Fuentes' opinion, we have a Zionist-occupied government. It's just Israel making all the decisions. It's Israel controlling the government. Yet he wants that same government to be able to surveil people, to throw people in jail for speech that they don't like, to crack down on the American population for words. It's not like he's arguing we need to transform the government and throw all these Wall Street criminals in jail. No, he's saying the current government needs to throw people in jail. And they can make that decision as if our legal system actually works, as if the justice system isn't just a puppet of the economic class that's currently in power. So regardless of if he's right about Israel's involvement in Charlie Kirk's assassination or not, the way he's using this event is still serving not only the United States government, but Israel.
It's, look, there is a disconnect in who people really are from the aesthetic they build their individual reality with, or identity with. Sorry. We're in the age, there's a really good German philosopher named Hans-Georg Müller. He calls it prophilicity, where who you are is built on the curation of your profile, your social media, right? The way you take from outside of you and put all these pieces together and make yourself. And this is how you get people like Fuentes, sort of who they are as an authentic person and who they present themselves as being so radically different. I mean, there is a whole long history of sick, disgusting things in this kid's past. And he's young, right? Like, I call him a kid because he's a kid. And then he presents himself as this traditional Catholic and good Christian, and he just wants to do what's good for America, put America first. But when the actual content of who he is this degenerate scumbag that hates his fellow Americans with a burning passion and considers them less than human, wishes violence on them, wishes oppression on them. These two things are somehow in the same person, right? And I think it's a product of the information age. It's this new era of unreality. The entire Frog Kid culture is based on this, right? It's based on presenting one thing and being another. And for them, that presented aesthetic that they're trying to be is more real than their authentic selves. So when they go and make a fake X profile and it's got like, you know, some cartoon character that's real strong and muscular, looks more like what Eddie actually looks like, right? Or what any of us actually look like. And they're actually this like real skinny nerd kid, very pale in their mom's basement or chubby or whatever it is. That cartoon character is more real for them than the actual real world. It's why they're so online. It's why they have a whole language and slang built up online alone. Lately, I've been saying that I can't wait for them to try to talk like they do online in the real world because it'll be hilarious. Like, imagine you're just randomly talking with your buddies at work and some guy comes up and just goes, "Get you, call me retard." And you're like, okay, you fucking weirdo. You know what I mean? It's this disconnect, and it's honestly worrying because as part of this and the authentic them leaking through, there is a lot of straight up evil bubbling under that surface. That hate I was talking about, that division I was talking about, the Zionism, but for the people he wants to be in charge. They picked this kid as their leader for some reason. I don't know why.
It's the Riddler's audience from Batman 2022.
It really is. And we are Bane in Batman Begins.
And we don't have the same problem in our organization. I'm not saying there aren't, of course, in our era, the information era, any political organization is going to get people who are terminally online and who need to develop their social skills. But that's what we do as a party. Our people are constantly working in their communities and their workplaces. So even if they come to the party a little bit terminally online, we're getting them out of the house. We're getting them connected to not only the community that is the party, but the community that they have locally, their neighbors, right? Their workplaces. So you see people transform. Someone told me the other day, I could tell right when I saw him that he had lost weight and that he seemed more confident and more sociable. And he told me, "I've been following your workout plan that you gave the party members, and I've lost 20 pounds.
That's
we're working
awesome.
It is fucking awesome. Yeah, shout out to him, Wisconsin cadre. But that's the kind of personal development that people in our party are engaging in that doesn't allow them to be terminally online. And this will help us a lot as things continue to decay and as the struggle gets a lot more real and a lot less online. I also want to say,
let me interrupt real quick. I just want to say that Eddie straight up builds the best workout plans ever. Like
thank you.
Like he's single-handedly responsible for me keeping in shape these days.
Hopefully I coach for a reason, or hopefully I've got some knowledge to share since it's my job. But thank you. Yeah. And I wanted to say too, like, not even touching the fact that how can you be a Christian and be this hateful and racially hateful? Like, I could go on about that for hours, but any American who wants a white Christian ethno-state, who wants America to be one race, is anti-American, is advocating for the destruction of America as it exists. That is what and they accuse us of wanting to destroy the nation and wanting to destroy the country, but we want to bring people together of every race, of every nationality, and build something new, a unique civilization that's better. We want to construct something. These guys want to fan the flames of a race war, and America wouldn't be a country if it was only one race. The whole country was people coming together, all these immigrants from around the world, and it was a big fat melting pot, and everyone was divided in different neighborhoods at one point. The Italians, the Irish, again, every different group of people had their own little neighborhood and their own workplaces and their own jobs. But now we've all meshed together years later. So that's how things work. And we need to
pluribus unum.
Yes, out of many one. It's on the bridge when you drive into New York, which is where all these immigrants were coming originally. The foundation of our country is impossible unless we can live in harmony with different races, unless we can have a multi-ethnic state. And there are multi-ethnic civilization states that are doing much better than us, like China and even Russia, who are the proof that this can work. But if you're calling for one racial group to try and overthrow all the other racial groups and make the country theirs, that's no longer America. You're refuting or going against the very foundation, the very basics of what makes our country a country and what makes our civilization a civilization. So anyone who doesn't want to bring people together and wants to inflame racial hatred is doing the work of the CIA. I mean, look at what the CIA has done even in other countries like former Yugoslavia, in order to promote destabilization and coups. They do it by promoting racial hatred. No, even though it's in your own interest for the Albanians to unite with the Serbians and have one sovereign state, fight each other because you're Albanian and you're Serbian and you should hate each other on that basis. That's what they've promoted with the Uyghur extremists in China. That's what they've tried to promote in Taiwan. That's the ideology they promoted in Ukraine, telling people who are basically the same fucking thing that they're so different and they need to hate each other because they're different racially. This is the ideology of the ruling class. There's no better tool for them to keep the workers divided than racism. So how can you be an anti-establishment American revolutionary if you're racist and if you want to tear America apart at its very foundations by pushing the same race war bullshit that the CIA has tried to push everywhere for the last 7 decades?
And it's wild they call themselves America First, when really they're only the people I consider good enough parts of America. You don't get to choose what country you were born in. You don't get to choose who's also in your country, you spoiled fucking brats. I mean, grow the fuck up. Jesus Christ. And that's without getting into the whole, this is completely against Christianity thing, and they claim to be these Catholics. Bullshit. Look.
And can I just say quick, they're the same, you call them spoiled brats, and I think that's important. They're the same class makeup as the radical liberals, upper middle class, PMC, resentful towards Jewish people for doing better in PMC jobs than them. It's the same class makeup as like DSA. Sorry,
they're like lumpenizing PMC basically. And look, they like try to twist what America is and how its founding went in order to pretend that America was always supposed to be white. where they say how the founding fathers wanted white men of good stock, and it wasn't until so-and-so Immigration Act, which is bullshit. And I recently found out, and this is interesting because it ties into the Charlie Kirk thing. One of these losers went to a Charlie Kirk event. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Charlie Kirk fan. I never was. I mean, the guy was obviously a political opponent, an establishment guy. But anyway, and one of these guys goes and he starts trying to like tell Charlie Kirk like they needed to kick out all the black people or whatever. And he's citing the same thing I'm just mentioning. And Charlie Kirk tells him the same exact thing I always tell these people, right? Where do you find any of this thing about white men of good stock in the Constitution? Where do you find it in the Declaration of Independence or any of our founding documents? You find it exactly nowhere because that's not what they believed. In fact, Thomas Jefferson himself, who owned slaves, yes, this is a contradiction, but he wrote about slavery that it was a brutal crime against human nature itself, right? And he goes on to cite E pluribus unum and kicks the guy out of the event. And I think that this is telling for like what his character really was, because he got pissed. You know what I mean? And not to say like I like him all of a sudden, I don't, but for Fuentes to suddenly go from sending his people to bother this guy with their racist nonsense and fantasy stories to everyone who talked bad about Charlie Kirk should be locked up is just so disgusting, opportunistic, and transparent. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. I should touch on these super chats here quick. Snipey McSended, another 10 from Snipey. Thank you, comrade. Appreciate the donations from you today and for being a member. Where do you see the U.S. in 30 years? It's a good question. I don't know if the United States of America as we know it today will exist by then. I think we're headed for an inevitable constitutional crisis, which the Constitution has always been infringed upon and ignored by the powerful when it's convenient for them. But we're seeing that more brazenly and out in the open, and the violations of the Constitution are becoming more obvious. Once you see the state, once a left-wing movement that can actually threaten the state is built, which will be the ACP, and the state starts cracking down on us and murdering us and throwing us in jail openly, which I guarantee you they will, before they allow the working class to seize power in this country. That's when I think you'll see a civil war type scenario. Actually, I don't know if that'll be the spark. I think something else could be the spark, actually, even the beef between Democrats and Republicans right now, and they're battling over the state, and, you know, that which is now currently taking place in the courts, Newsom versus Trump going after the National Guard. Trump seems to be building up ICE, basically as his own personal army of mercenaries. I think there's more to that. I've been saying this from the beginning. I don't see as many people saying it. I think I might be onto something here, guys. I think because the deportation rates aren't up, right? He's deporting less than Biden did, but ICE funding and the push to privatize ICE further is going on to an insane degree, and they're bringing in all these private mercenaries. I think it's Trump potentially building up his own private army for like a civil war scenario, especially if the courts decide that he can't control the guard and the federal government can't control it. So we're seeing the seeds of a civil war being sown. Will that come to fruition within the next 30 years? If I was a betting man, I would probably bet yes. It could take longer than that, obviously. And then where America goes from that all really depends on how organized the working class is and how ready they are to fight. How big and strong and well-educated is the American Communist Party, which will be taking on all these warlord-type forces who will try to seize power in that vacuum that's created.
I think a lot of people don't get how close to the edge we are. Look, in 30 years, the U.S. may not be a thing. Let's be real about that. And you know, I know that sounds crazy, but things are heating up and it's getting more and more rapid. I hope that, you know, I can say in 30 years the ACP will be in power, or we'll enter some more peaceful period, and you know, my son can grow up in peace and just have a regular life. But I just don't see it anymore. I don't.
Most people feel that way, including apolitical people in their 40s and 50s and 60s who I talk to. Apolitical, or, you know, just regular liberals or conservatives or whatever. They all feel that way. They all feel that they've never seen anything like the country today. Not all of them, obviously, but the ones that I talk to, they've never seen political polarization like this. And a lot of them believe Trump could be the spark for a civil war, which is something we've been looking out for a while. Especially Haas has been talking about that as an inevitability in America. So
that ICE angle, by the way, was really sharp. I haven't thought about that a lot, but I mean, you could be really onto something there.
Yeah. I think I hope I'm not, but I think I am. Just because I was, and they also, people missed this, but they pushed to privatize ICE as well, which would literally just be like Trump's own corporate army, which is, you know, Blackwater already is that to a degree. But those are the kind of people who are being brought into ICE now as like mercenary type guys. Thank you, Marco Dominguez, another YouTube member, giving us an extra $10 this month. Appreciate you, brother. I watch other left creators like Bad Empanada deprogram. They have on a few occasions smeared ACP. I've tried to get those communities to tell me where ACP is wrong, but get no answers. Thoughts? Yeah, it's funny how that works, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know what their deal is. I mean, Bad Empanada is unhinged. I mean, obviously he has some good takes, but he's an unhinged guy. So that's one thing. But the deprogram guys, it's just audience capture, man. These liberals in they're softer, more democratic socialists versus hardcore Marxist Leninist communists. So they have an audience that's a little bit more liberal than us. And those guys do good work, I'll be honest, you know, transforming liberals into communists, teaching about Marxism, Leninism. Like, they do a decent job. There are things that I disagree with that they say, of course, but whatever. They're generally pushing for the right thing. But because they have a more liberal audience that has this like completely illogical view of the ACP rooted in ridiculous smears and like outright lies for the most part, they feel like it would be too big of a risk to come out and work with us or support us because so much of their audience would be upset about it. And a lot of, I mean, even the people who I don't think those guys are total grifters. I don't think they're in it just to make money. I don't think JT of Second Thought would have used his channel with 1 million subscribers to promote communism if he wasn't genuine about communism, right? But we all have to fight opportunism, right? We have to fight opportunism ourselves. I get tons of people reaching out to use my TikTok as a platform for advertising. You know, we all have to combat monetary and financial influences and combat the pull to be a grifter. That's always there. And I'm not saying these guys are grifters, but I think it is a hinge of opportunism why they don't want to talk to us and why they just shrug their shoulders and go along with the smears instead of doing a deeper investigation. Even though I've talked to all those guys before, I had never had Hakeem on the show, but we planned to. We had Ugopnik and Second Thought on the show, and we got along about everything. And I saw someone challenging JT of Second Thought actually on his ACP views, and he kind of fell apart. He didn't have much against us. So I would just ask those guys to question, why do you actually believe what you believe about us? Especially when we're over here saying doors always open, keep doing what you guys are doing and we'll work together if you want. If not, we'll keep doing what we're doing.
My views may be a little harsher than Eddie's. Look, I agree with you, brother. Like they do some good stuff. They really do. But I think there's a sort of information age version of a labor aristocracy happening.
Yeah.
That came up in before the last couple of years where things really started to escalate during a relatively peaceful development of capitalism period, right? And they got established in this period when the left were these PMC liberals who cared more about what bathrooms people use than class struggle before the necessity really came upon us. And this is exactly how a lot of the people within the Second International just got trapped. They didn't view themselves as anything counter-revolutionary, as I'm sure these guys don't, right? They still did some good stuff from time to time, as these guys do. But at the end of the day, they serve to turn people away from the Comintern, away from the Bolsheviks, etc. And that's what their silence and negative views, whenever the few times they've talked about us, comes into play, right? I don't know. That's just me, though. I don't have anything against them. I should say that. Our door is always open. It really is.
Yeah, and I know they make good money on Patreon and stuff too. But, yeah. Thank you, Back from the Road. Can anyone explain why the Groiper as a name? I would walk home if I had to share a cab with someone who called themselves a Groiper. I don't know. It's literally, thank you, Back from the Road, for the $10, by the way. Salute. Red salute. But it's literally like they chose the most pathetic name and mascot for themselves. Like I always see them posting this meme of these fat frogs with beer bellies and like bad posture. And they're like, this is us. This is our army. And it's like, why wouldn't you make it like a gorilla or a liger or something sick as hell? Why would you make it a frog? I don't know. But
or like a bunch of Frankensteins, you know? That's gonna be my symbol. Just a bunch of Frankensteins beating the crap out of everything.
They're putting chemicals in the water to turn the freaking frogs gay.
I think it was like a right-wing meme way before they began using it too. And I think that was its name. I could be wrong though.
Could be. I would have to look into that ChatGPT question. Battle Cossack, thank you again, comrade, for more Argentinian dollars. What's your take on Antifa being designated a terrorist organization? I know they're problematic and annoying, but I don't think they're involved in Kirk's murder. I mean, it's hard to say because they're not like a real organization with a headquarters, which is how they weasel their way out of taking responsibility for anything. When some people with Antifa shirts show up and start like wrecking property or like escalating protests into violence. But I mean, I don't know what that's. The only problem with that, though, is then it can be used against us because they can say, you know, Antifa's a terrorist organization very vaguely, you know, and then anybody who's against fascism is all of a sudden a terrorist, you know, and they can use that to say this person's a member of Antifa. And how do you prove it? They aren't really a real organization. It's just a way people use to say that they like to vandalize stuff at protests. But yeah, I don't know. It could be used to crack down on anyone, which is why I don't think it's a good thing. But. Yeah,
it could be it could end up getting that vague area between a member of Antifa and someone who is Antifa or anti-fascist. That could get switched up and back and forth like that.
Exactly.
Did you see, Eddie, that Carolyn Bursenko lady went on Jesse Waters, and the way that the show was produced, I don't know if this was her intent or not, but I assume it was, like made it look like they were like a paramilitary organization that just
Antifa,
trains people in the light of day, and like it was wild, dude.
What?
You gotta watch it.
Jesse
like she
Waters,
did this, like undercover investigative reporting as a leftist, and she came back. It's like they have ex-military training people and this and that, and it's like,
yeah, we can watch that today. Actually, we should probably first. Here's a question for you, quick. No, I'll be short with this. But thank you, Snipey McSended. I'm a veteran. Are you embarrassed to wear your Navy hat?
No, I'm not a veteran. This hat was my father's. And
he's saying he's a veteran. He's just asking, are you embarrassed to wear a U.S. military hat?
Yeah, no. It was my dad's hat, and it's a good hat. I like it.
And the Navy's going to be based as hell when we take it over.
It is.
It's the way that the institution works that is bad. The institution itself, you know, is supposed to be around defense and protecting our country and helping people in times of need, and it doesn't function that way now, but damn it, one day it will if we have anything to say about it. That's all.
I start a question too that I really wanted to get into. It might be like at the very bottom.
You can try to grab it. I just want to, because we said we were going to show this.
Okay. Oh, I want to mention this real quick.
Okay. Yeah, you get it.
Because it's a really good example of the way rightists lie about every single thing. I was ranting, right? But I never said we don't get to say who we let into our country. You notice how that just comes out of nowhere? And it's interesting to me because all it does is allow
That's such a a way to misconstrue what you said. It's so not what you said.
What I was saying is you don't get to choose the country you're born into. You just don't. And by the way, in America right now, we don't get to choose who we let into our country. So it's actually kind of factually accurate, but it implies all this like dumb anarchist, like open borders
He's
stuff.
saying you're open borders,
Right,
yeah.
that I don't stand for. It's like this like obsession with the common narratives that they always have. But that's I just wanted to demonstrate how it's always a lie. Is the opening salvo.
Nick is making all these accusations towards others. He doesn't have all the facts. What the fuck is he trying to get out of this? Attention, popularity, money, and the acceptance of the right-wing establishment that he has craved since he was a young 18-year-old. He didn't know how to play his cards right, so he got rejected by the establishment for criticizing Israel. He has always resented them for that, which is why he goes after Candace and Tucker so hard. And he wants his seat at the table. He wants to keep the Republican Party, have the Republican Party be more openly racist, and have him at the front of it. And it seems like the Republicans might be ushering him in to do just that, which is where we're at in America. But I want to show this really bad because we said we were going to show it a while ago, and then we got sidetracked talking shit. But this is Jackson. This is every connection that to Israel and the Charlie Kirk assassination. Not saying that anything happened, not saying that Israel did it, not drawing any conclusions, but here's the evidence, especially because Nick Fuentes is saying there's no evidence. Anyone who believes this is ridiculous, and then he's trying to divert people's attention towards Russia and saying that it was Max Blumenthal and Jackson Hinkle and Tucker Carlson who got Charlie Kirk assassinated because they're Russia connected, and this schizophrenic nonsense, Rachel Maddow nonsense. But here's every Israeli connection. Charlie Kirk was groomed by Israel as a teenager. He was Israel's top non-Jewish loyalist. He starts mildly criticizing Israel. He says Epstein was Mossad. He said, I didn't know he said that, but that's crazy. I mean, that's really going against the Israeli narrative.
Oh, yeah.
He said, and in a way that, they don't want the right wing to believe that. They're and more of the right wing is believing that. And you guys also have to understand the level of power that Charlie Kirk's TPUSA organization has. If you went to college in the last 10 years, you saw TPUSA on your campus, right? They are actually organizing people for the Republicans. They were vital in Trump's recent election victory. They are essentially the youth wing of the Republican Party. So TPUSA has massive influence, especially over the youth, which Israel is losing right now, losing the support of. And with Christians, who they're also losing the support of. I come from an evangelical Christian family, and I'm as anti-Zionist as it gets as an adult. So more and more people are doing that. He lobbied Trump against war with Iran. Trump barked back at him over Iran. He said Israel had full control of Trump. He referred to Netanyahu as a bully. He feared that Israel would kill him. Harrison Smith posted about his fear of that. Netanyahu requests Charlie visit Israel. Netanyahu offers them huge funding as he's turning against them. He refused that funding offer, which is huge. He becomes disgusted, quote unquote, with Netanyahu. He let anti-Zionists speak at his events. Yeah, he had this big event where they were discussing Israel and how to productively criticize Israel. Zionist media starts attacking him. Zionist donors threaten to defund TPUSA. Zionist, which I imagine they were if he was taking these positions. I'm sure because we know how the Israeli lobby is. They're used to their politicians falling in line. And Charlie Kirk had a little too much backbone for that, I think. Inspired by people like Candace and Tucker. Sorry, were you going to say something, Noah?
No, I was just agreeing. I think no, just keep going. It's fine.
Okay. Zionist donors demand Kirk ban Tucker Carlson. I did hear about that from Tucker. Donors cut him off and launch attacks against him. Loomer says Laura Loomer, Israel First influencer number one, says
By the
Kirk
way,
is backstabbing Trump.
I got to show you something hilarious real quick. Let me try to look for it because it's so funny.
This is a lot of evidence.
Where is it? There it is. I'm linking a Grok reply in our private chat real quick for you so you can pull it up. It's so funny, and it's about Lara Loomer. Just real quick, it'll be worth it, I promise.
You said, oh, I see it. Okay, let's see this. Hey, Grog, why is Laura Loomer banned from owning a gun? Adam, I don't know why this guy never follows me back. I like all his stuff, and I see him interacting with my stuff sometimes. Anyway. Laura Loomer is prohibited from owning a firearm under federal law 18 U.S.C. 922, which bars those who have been adjudicated as mentally defective or committed to a mental institution. Reports indicate this stems from 2 involuntary commitments under Florida's Baker Act for mental health reasons. Oh, my God. Oh, man. I mean, like, are you surprised knowing Laura Loomer?
Mentally defective.
Oh man, I would normally not make fun of someone for being committed to a mental institution, but with Laura Loomer, the jokes write themselves.
And she's like BFFs with Fuentes, right?
Yeah, they cheersed one time.
Right.
Oh man, and then they promised to take over the Republican Party, which I guess now they are on behalf of Israel. Good for them.
Yeah.
Wow, that is some funny shit.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the evidence. Zionist FBI Director Kash Patel fires Chief of Utah FBI. The FBI botched this whole thing so bad. If you don't see anything suspicious about the way they handled this, you're crazy. He has anti-Israel interview Charlie Kirk does with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro attacks Kirk on Mark Levin, an ultra-Zionist. He is combative meeting with Israeli rabbi. Before 9/10, unusual people visited shooter. The visitors had out-of-state license plates. The visitor did not give off a good vibe. Charlie shot in the jugular from 200 yards away. Unidentified man runs in crowd with pistol. Police arrest a patsy claiming to be the shooter, who was also at the Boston bombing and 9/11, by the way. Which, what the hell?
Right.
Patsy yells, "Shoot me" during arrest. 9/11 propaganda video surfaces of Patsy. Actual shooter flees without a trace. Netanyahu tweets within minutes at the same exact time that Donald Trump did. Israeli media first to confirm Charlie's death. That is weird. That is so weird. Private jet takes off 12 minutes away, disabling its location monitoring. The jet is owned by Chabad Lubavitch, a donor to Chabad Lubavitch. There were weird connections with the jet to Israel, of course. Yep. Netanyahu posts about Charlie's Israel trip. FBI says foreign intelligence is assisting in the operation. Again, what is Kash Patel doing? What the fuck is the FBI doing unless they want us to suspect that something is up? Not only him tweeting that they had a suspect apprehended like 3-4 times when they didn't, but also saying that foreign intelligence was assisting them. Why? Why? In Utah? You need the Mossad to help you with an investigation in Utah? What else are we supposed to make of that? That is so ridiculous.
I'll be right back again, brother.
Okay. It's the Ukrainian SBU is helping us out in Utah, I guess. FBI claims they have photos of the shooter. FBI claims the shooter wore tactical gear, which I don't think he did he? Assembled gun found in a wooded area. No photos exist of the shooter with the gun. No photos exist of the shooter in tactical gear. I didn't think so, which is odd. No photos exist of the... Zionists go on a social media blitz about Kirk. Yes, and we've seen that these Hezbollah social media blitzes, these Israeli social media blitzes are very coordinated. Very coordinated. They do them on every single app, and they are organized, okay? They teach classes on how to edit Wikipedia so they can get Zionists constantly editing Wikipedia to keep the narrative going in their direction. It was Zionists who organized this campaign to censor TikTok and crack down on pro-Palestine content on TikTok. So these are oftentimes very organized. I don't know if they all would have been praising Kirk like this if there wasn't some kind of order given out to do so. Netanyahu goes on a social media blitz about Kirk. Netanyahu says there was an Islamist behind the shooting, which that right there is also another big red flag. When Israel's saying that Muslims did something, you can almost guarantee that they did.
The dialectics of language is a very big interest of mine right now. It's something Stalin was really studying a lot towards the end of his life.
Ingalls too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and
etymology.
the way they use Islamist rather than Muslim is just so ridiculous and funny to me, to make it sound scarier, because the word ist makes it more political for you in your subconscious. There's always a subliminal and a liminal component to any word you're hearing. But I don't want to get off on a big, theory lesson.
All good. That's interesting stuff. And I encourage any Marxist to kind of take a look at etymology sometimes and look at how words reflect their meaning, and how what Noah calls definition mongering can be used to use definitions to distort reality. Netanyahu reads Kirk's pro-Israel letter. Candace says the letter was faked. Candace, friend of Charlie Kirk when he was alive. Candace calls on Netanyahu to publish the letter, which I don't think he did. Tucker says Charlie was at war with Israel behind the scenes, which, again, Charlie Kirk is so important, not just as a public-facing figure, but behind the scenes, because he runs TPUSA. He runs the youth wing of the Republican Party. That's how important this guy was to the right. Mike Cernovich says Kirk was at war with his donors, Israeli donors. Gray Zone drops an article with the Trump Insider. Insider confirms that Kirk was at war with Israel. Insider confirms that Trump is fearful of Israel. I would be too if I was the president, looking at JFK. Insider confirms that Mossad is spying on Trump. Trump insiders don't buy official FBI story. That's also crazy. Trump insiders say outside forces killed Charlie Kirk, but I'm sure it was just some random liberal kid.
I mean, look.
There's no evidence, Nick Fuentes says. It was Russia, Nick Fuentes says.
Right. He says that, like, all of this makes no sense and you're stupid if you believe. He did the stupid, like, the IQ thing again. Like, you're so low IQ if you don't. I'm so sick of people talking about IQ. Jesus.
That's what he's calling it. The low IQ right are the ones who believe it. And those are the people who left his audience because of this.
This kid, man. But look, I'm not saying anything. I don't know anything for sure. Again, like Eddie said earlier, we're probably never going to know. But that's a lot of questions that you have to ask, knowing those facts.
And I want to repeat what I said on the Metal Gear Red podcast, too. Check out the Metal Gear Red podcast if you haven't yet. Greatest podcast on the internet, now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But watch on
There's
YouTube.
literally no podcasts in the entire universe that are any better. I'm talking about like Joe Rogan's Aliens, none of them. None of them got anything on Metal Gear Red.
And soon the views will reflect that.
Yep.
But people should read the book Programmed to Kill. Because even if it was this Tyler Robinson character, for one, that doesn't mean that the deep state wasn't involved. They love MK Ultraing mentally deranged and disturbed individuals into doing their dirty work for them because it allows them to be hands off. But even that book also touches on like the societal reasons that we have for all of these mass killers and all of these sociopaths and all of these serial killers and the public's obsession with them. The way that our society isolates people and beats them over the head with information and technology while they're isolated from real interaction with others, and how this creates a society of a lot of killers and a lot of socially isolated people who are willing to murder members of their own community. So, you know, even if it was this Tyler Robinson kid, it wasn't Jackson Hinkle and the left, especially not the Marxist-Leninist left, that created it. It's the neoliberal American society that created it. It's our economic and political system at its very core that creates these isolated and violent young individuals. And the CIA deliberately uses those individuals that it knows the system creates for their own ends, which is what like MK Ultra and stuff were all about.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting to me how these people who talk about low IQ, high IQ can't seem to think more deeply about anything. Like, there are very real world problems Zionism causes, but they just blanket, it's Jews, just like, which Jews? You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole bunch of Jews, guys. Like, is it the guy that gives me a coffee at Starbucks before work in the morning? I don't think he had anything to do with this. You know what I mean? It's always just some like stretch in order to confirm their aesthetic, because it's thinking really has nothing to do with it. The IQ thing is only part of their identity and their profiles that they built up for themselves. It's like they literally like their obsession with like trying to say that like it was our Discord server when the ACP doesn't have a Discord server, and Haas like routinely wipes his, especially when
and he did it 2 days after the killing. It's not like he immediately got on there and wiped out any.
Right. Like,
it's 2 days later after they got raided and spammed.
It's the dumbest thing ever. But they're just stuck on it. They can't think past it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this forever, and usually when I've said this in the past, it's been in relation to the woke left and the woke liberal left, and I've actually compared them to racists. And I've said race essentialist thinking is where thinking goes to die. Race essentialism is where thinking goes to die. As soon as you start saying one race acts like this and another race acts like that, you're wrong, because you're not looking at the specifics. You're not looking at the different economic class makeups in those races. You're lumping in, or you're trying to lump together an entire group of people based on the actions of certain individuals or stereotypes that you've seen or heard of. So you can never make a real concrete analysis of what's going on. When something political happens, if you have a racial-based analysis, you're just going to be saying the Jews. And like Noah said, well, which ones? There are a lot of non-Jewish people who are involved with the endless wars and the usury schemes and stuff too. So who the hell are you actually talking about? And it doesn't allow you to go any further into the concrete and understand what's actually going on and actually apply your theory to the concrete, because it ends as soon as you see a certain racial group. That's, you're working backwards from that conclusion always.
It lets the entire ruling class kind of off the hook too. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Right.
That the Bill Gateses of the world and the Morgans and the Rockefellers and the DuPonts and the Carnegies, and I always start listing these and say we can list them for an hour because it's true. A lot of them people ain't Jewish, guys.
Bill Gates.
Right. And he is still creating a giant problem. That guy owns the most farmland in all of American history. And it's okay because he's not, going to temple or whatever.
He's fucking over people where I live.
Right.
Why does he get to control Iowa farmland and charge our working people rent? And why should we allow that? Because he's not Jewish. What, do we want to create more Bill Gates, more people who own everything but aren't Jewish? We just want DEI policy for whites? What is that going to solve for regular farmers, who Nick Fuentes hates and mocks, by the way, calls them nail bangers?
Right. Like, anyone who actually does anything productive for our society instead of parasites like him, he just looks down on and hates. Thank you, CJ.
Yes, thanks, CJ. No, I know it's getting late for you, so just let me know if you got to tap out. But I want to show quick some of the best roasts of Nick Fuentes that I've seen.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm just going to pull up. I didn't have a chance to actually collect all my favorite ones. There was one more I wanted to show. One sec. Let me pull that up real quick, and then we'll get into these. I want to show Guy Christensen's, because now the other thing that this is doing is kind of giving the left, quote unquote, a common enemy in a way. And we'll see what impact this will have on the Hassan Pikers and the deprograms of the world. Because and Hassan said this on his stream, that basically we need the ACP to fight these guys. We need to sick the ACP on the Fuentesites and the Groypers and the extreme right. We're like, of course, it always comes down to the communists, the Marxist-Leninists to fight fascism in practice. But now as they see it happening, as they see it unfolding in front of them, what will they do? Will they just stay out of it and let us continue to fight the fascists? Will they give us critical support? It remains to be seen, and it'll be interesting to see. But anyways, this is RTSG has been posting about Fuentes a lot, keeping up with his streams. They said Nick Fuentes is now openly parroting Mossad talking points, claiming that if you think Israel was involved with the Kirk assassination, you are low IQ. Almost 2,000 likes, you guys. And this is what I mean. Everything that our camp is posting about Nick Fuentes right now is blowing up. Maybe not as big as him yet, right? But his audience is dwindling while our audience is growing in relation to this. We sort of outmaneuvered him in this situation, I would say.
Look, the truth is shining through. That's what it is. He's showing the world what a scummy little rat boy he is. And look,
tell me if go ahead.
When you're at a point in your life and you see that there is a real problem with how society functions, maybe you do fall into this stupid JQ rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
But then when your hero shows that he's been full of shit the entire time, you got to go looking for something else, right? And anyone on the fence is obviously coming to our side now. Anyone who's just like, and go ahead.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, the truth comes out in the end. And people who are truly seeking truth will see that. And there are, what Noah's saying is there are people who are seeking truth who fell down the JQ rabbit hole. But if they continue to seek truth, honestly, then they will eventually come further to a revolutionary left-wing politics that sides with the working class and the working class alone.
At the end of the day,
why is it so quiet?
She's just stupid and defines low IQ anti-Semitism. I used to think it didn't exist. I used to think that low IQ anti-Semitism is just something that Jewish people would say to counter the rising tide of people acknowledging Jewish power. Now I'm convinced it's real, and it has a name. That name is Candace Owens Farmer. Low IQ anti-Semitism. The idea that Charlie Kirk was silenced.
And I would say Candace isn't even anti-Semitic, right? Some of the things, like she's promoted Judeo-Bolshevik conspiracy bullshit, right? There's an anti-Semitic vibe to it, but she's more, I don't hate Jews. I'm just criticizing Israel and Zionist power in America, which is more complex and more of a concrete analysis than what Fuentes does. But he is able to keep everything within the paradigm of anti-Semites versus non-anti-Semites. And the good ones are the ones who follow me and agree with me on everything. The low IQ ones, the dumb ones, are the ones who disagree with me on this specific issue.
For being about to go against Israel, it's just on its face, absurd and ridiculous.
On its face. I don't want to get into the substance. I just want to dismiss it on its face, without even engaging with the substance of what Candace is saying. Just
that right there is called running away. It's what he does best. He's been doing it from Haas for how long now? Terrified of the man. Terrified of him.
This is another good one. Oh, the memes this week were too good, you guys. Keep them coming. Please do not stop the Nick Fuentes memes. Keep them coming. We don't want to support cancel culture, legalize comedy, as Elon Musk said, and keep posting these memes.
A guy I work with called him Netanyahu's towel girl earlier, which I thought was funny.
Even if Palantir puts you on a list, keep sharing memes like this. It's funny, like, I'm not even anti-Semitic, of course, but it's funny because Nick is so anti-Semitic. Like, putting him in a yarmulke is like the worst thing you could do to him. It's too good. Racism being funny because it's so untrue and stupid.
But there's a contingent on the internet which insists that it was not Tyler Robinson at all. It wasn't the radical.
Not true. Not true. Nobody is saying that it had to be a professional hitman. I've said 1,000 times. that just because it was some unhinged leftist with a trans boyfriend or whatever doesn't mean that they weren't preyed on by the CIA or Mossad. Look up MK Ultra. Look up how they actually do these things and how they draw people into their schemes.
Isn't this their line? We're just asking questions. Like, why aren't we allowed to ask questions?
Why aren't we allowed to notice, bro?
Right?
We're just noticing.
I've noticed quite a lot about this frog kid.
I'm noticing more and more every day.
Left, but it was Israel that Israel struck down Charlie Kirk.
Again, this is his like simplistic paradigm too, where they said Israel did 9/11, Israel assassinated JFK, like the CIA and the American deep state wasn't involved at all. Again, we're not saying that, right? We're not saying it was just Israel who flew a plane in and assassinated him straight up. It could have been the CIA. It could have been the CIA working in conjunction with Mossad, which is usually how these things work.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been the FBI. I think they were the ones who are, most people suspect unalived MLK. I'm not exactly sure on that, but right, there are all these different apparatuses of the deep state that are conjoined with Israel. There's a dialectical relationship between the U.S. deep state and the Israeli deep state. It's not one or the other. So again, his analysis is not concrete. It's not complex at all because it's race essentialist, and he misses all these different elements that make up this event.
The real world is complicated, right? It's made up of so many moving pieces. Modern politics is complicated. There are so many interrelated factors of anything you're looking at. One of the most misused quotes I've ever heard is that one from Einstein where he says, if you can't explain a concept in simple terms, you don't understand it. People try to apply that to real world events when he's talking about scientific concepts. He's right in terms of scientific concepts, but this is an example of the real world having more complexity to it than this black and white thinking where everything is, to quote Engels, yay, yay, nay, nay, and everything else cometh of evil, right?
Yep.
That positive and negative don't necessarily exclude each other. They instead depend on each other. And when you're looking at the real world, you have to think like that if you want to be viewing it accurately. This guy talks about IQ all the time. I don't think he is smart enough to do that. I think he's a good talker, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think he looks like a frog, and it weirds me out every time I see him.
It's funny. I had something. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. And I would be willing to bet this is a little unrelated to Noah's, but it's totally unrelated. Yours was very deep and theoretical and interesting. Mine is just that on the individual aesthetic level, I guarantee you that the Groypers look more like this Tyler Robinson ultra-left liberal kid than our individuals do, just on an aesthetic level. Because like I said, they share the same PMC upper middle class background, whereas we draw from the proletariat, people who work with their hands. And not to say we don't have PMC people, but we're getting them jobs training, we're getting them involved in their communities and workplaces. So we're combating that sort of PMC petty bourgeois class consciousness.
It's interesting because it's a completely different culture, right? When you're focused around the industrial proletariat, like me, right? I'm at work all day. The culture in the party is the same culture on my job sites. It's a radically different atmosphere than those created by PMCs when they're the majority in a group. I was in the old party before it got liquidated for a while, right? And it was the dumbest PMC nonsense ever. And they just have the groupers or gropers or whatever just have a different flavor of that. It's the exact same thing, the exact same cancel culture, but instead of being bigot, you're the Jew or whatever they say,
It's amazing how much they reflect each other, the far liberal left and the far extreme racist right. Like they really both are rooted in what I call race essentialist thinking, which, as I was just saying, is where thinking goes to die. It's just two sides of the same coin. They both want DEI policies. One just wants it for minorities. The other wants it for white people.
They both believe that the inherent center of social reality is based in race and not anything real and material. Materially speaking, they're literally the exact same phenomenon. Like there's not really a division between the two.
So true. All right, let's listen to this. I restarted it because we went on a tangent.
Cool.
But there's a contingent on the internet which insists that it was not Tyler Robinson at all. It wasn't the radical right or the radical left, but it was Israel, that Israel struck down Charlie Kirk. Ordinarily, that would be a completely ridiculous thing to say. Completely, utterly ridiculous. You would be laughed out of any room for suggesting that. Why? Because Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel his entire life.
Can you pause it real quick, Eddie?
What?
Okay, I was asking if you could pause it real quick.
Yes.
I just want to say that intelligence officers straight up murder true believers all the time.
Yep.
Even our fiction reflects this known fact. Like one of my favorite shows ever is The Americans, right? And it's actually written by a ex-CIA agent that.
Wait, before you say this, can I say, what's that one quote? It's almost better to be an enemy of the CIA than a friend, because they're so notorious for throwing their own puppets to the wolves when they've outlived their usefulness. Sorry, please go ahead with the American.
You're 100% right, and that's what they do, right? Look at their patsy for JFK. He was a Marine. He was a super patriot, a Parentian super patriot, right? And then suddenly this like true blue Marine is calling the guys in his platoon comrade and talking about the proletariat, like just unbelievable nonsense. And then they took him out.
Can you talk about The American? I want to hear that analogy.
Yeah. The show The Americans. Look, all intelligence agencies have done this in the past. I don't want to say the Soviets are innocent here. They're not. Very dedicated communists got murdered by other KGB agents for one reason or another. In that show, there's one where the two main characters there. I'll kind of explain what the show was, right? It's based in the late 80s or the mid to late 80s and follows two members of Directorate S, which was a real KGB program to sort of grow real American agents, right? So they took two KGB officers, a man and a woman, and sent them to America. And once they were there, they only spoke English. They lived as Americans. They owned businesses. They had friends. They had children, etc. And the real point of the program was their kids, right? Their kids would actually have real American citizenship, so they would be better spies. Now, obviously, the program falls apart at the end of the Soviet Union, but it follows these two. The show The Americans follows these two Directorate S agents named Michael and Elizabeth. And some of their good friends were running an agent named Fred. And Fred is a fantastic character because he believed in the cause, right? He believed in communism and hadn't been recruited ideologically. They'd never recruit ideologically, by the way. He got recruited because he needed a friend. And the KGB guy was there for him. They ended up having to let Fred die when they could have saved his life because the mission was more important. They had to make a choice. And intelligence officers do that kind of thing all the time.
Is this spoilers? Did you just spoil the show?
It's an important part of the show, but yeah. So spoiler alert. Hindsight spoiler alert.
No, exactly. And there's so many examples of that in real life. I mean, look at Zelensky, right? Like the Trump administration bringing him, they pushed Ukraine into this proxy war. And then they bring him, into the Oval Office, and Trump is just like, fuck you, you're a clown, you're taking our money, you're a welfare queen, we're not going to support you anymore. And when Russia does, bring a final end to that war, who knows, Zelensky could be in jail or killed, and the U.S. won't give a shit. They throw their puppets away as soon as they're not useful. So the idea that they wouldn't turn on one of their own because he's one of their own, if he was causing problems for the deep state behind the scenes, and they saw, a potential catastrophe on the way with Charlie Kirk moving towards more anti-Israel positions, versus, look at the outcome of this situation. It's given the deep state everything they want. It's given them justification for mass surveillance, for crackdowns. So they transformed, if they did do this, what could have been a disastrous situation for them into a winning situation for them. And all they had to do was give up one guy whose loyalty they were questioning anyways, hypothetically.
Or even if he wasn't ever going to turn against Israel, they could still do that as hypothetically as a false flag in order to stop the fracturing of the right, which they need hyper Zionist. Look, all of imperialism really focuses on Zionism in this one little area. I don't think people understand that. Like, a lot of the banks are tied up in investments there. That corridor is really important economically speaking. The Greater Israel Project is
even
like
Gaza is an important economic area. That's why they want it.
Exactly. And like, this is what it always comes down
Gaza.
to. It is the money. Remember, always question who benefits. You got to look into this shit.
Cui bono. Yeah.
So that's a great one, Harkin. Yeah, he was their man. He was the CIA's boy.
Yeah, true.
Like that, when all he wanted to do was denominate oil, not in US dollars. They were like, done.
Yep. Marco sent a good super chat. We'll finish off this video, then I'll answer that.
Pro-Israel to the hilt. And as far as I'm aware, that never changed.
Because you're not looking at the evidence, pal.
But there is a conspiracy theory that has been promulgated, notably by Max Blumenthal.
Conspiracy theory.
That had to be a lie. He had to know.
Yeah.
Candace Owens.
Oh, but Max Blumenthal's Jewish, so we can dismiss everything that he says. We can believe everything Netanyahu and Mossad says, but because Max Blumenthal's an anti-Zionist Jew, he's clearly doing the work of Israel. This guy who's dedicated his entire life to fighting Israel and never had a change of heart behind the scenes. But let's dismiss it on its face because he's Jewish.
This is why Engels said that. Sorry, Eddie, I didn't mean to talk over you.
I was saying what I've said a million times, that race essentialism is where thinking goes to die.
This is why Engels said that anti-Semitism is a sign of a retarded culture.
Yes. It betokens a retarded culture and a retarded cat boy.
Another Russia shill and a complete grifter, among others. Jackson Hinkle, another Russian shill, far-left communist. These three have been promulgating the theory that Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel, and they say...
The Russian shill thing is literally MSNBC, bro. You're saying the same thing about Tucker and Candace that the New York Times and the MSNBC cable news outlets say about them. You are Rachel Maddow. You are a twink Rachel Maddow.
Russiagate 2.
Charlie Kirk was on the verge of an utter transformation. He was going to start criticizing
Not even an utter transformation, just not being a hardcore evangelical Zionist anymore.
Apparently.
Which would be devastating for them because that is their base of support. Not only are they losing the youth, not only is Israel losing the youth, but Charlie Kirk was an evangelical Zionist. That there are more evangelical Zionists in the world than there are Jewish Zionists because it's a more popular religion overall. If they lose the evangelicals in America, they lose everything. And Charlie Kirk was essential for that.
And you know, something on Christian Zionists, whenever we bring up this which Jews question when they talk about the Jews, I always have to laugh because they're like, well, blah, blah, blah. 90% of Jews support Zionism. It's like, okay, so So what? There are still far more Christians who support Zionism, but you're not saying the Christians are guilty of everything, are you? They pick and choose the logic based on the aesthetic. I keep telling you guys, it's about the narrative. This is an era. Look, the information age is an era of performance, of preening, of doing little dances to try to make yourself into something you are not. The authenticity of the prior age, it's gone. Don't even think there's any of it left, because there isn't. It's gone. Everybody's a dancer now. Well, I mean, you don't have to be a dancer, but still. See, and look, we got one of them like making an excuse for that anyway, saying, oh, so whatever percentage of Christians don't support Zionism. There are still far more Christians who support Zionism than Jews who support Zionism. Be consistent, you dumb child.
Speaking of children who aren't dumb, my friend Guy Christensen also came out and roasted Nick Fuentes.
That kid
Guy
is sharp,
is a
man. He
brilliant
really is.
young kid with like 3 million TikTok followers. Hopefully we don't both get banned by the new guidelines, which we haven't even covered on stream yet.
Dude,
Make
his
sure you're
videos are
subscribed to
getting
us on
taken- his videos are getting taken down left and right, man.
Yes. Make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube if you don't already, and other platforms, because the TikTok will be going down soon, probably. But he said Nick has performed the fastest 180 ever seen from a political commentator. He definitely got the call. Anyone know if Nick has called on people to boycott Israel, vote against Zionist-funded candidates, or meaningfully organize in any way ever? If not, he's a pressure valve. God, brilliant analysis from someone who's like 19 years old. I want to respond and say brilliant analysis.
Eddie told me about this kid like a year ago. I was checking the Institute's Instagram and I was like, yo, there's somebody writing us messages. It's obviously not to me. It might be to you, Eddie. And it was Guy. And so I've been watching him since then. This kid is smart, man. Watch this kid for the future. He's still real young. As he gets older, he's gonna be like big time.
Yeah, he was committed to go to some college and he got it taken away because Zionists targeted him and attacked him.
That's sad, man.
He's already getting shit from them.
See what they do? Rather than confront him, have a debate or something, they go after him behind his back to try to ruin his life and his future. This is what scum we are dealing with here. Don't ever be under the illusion that our political opponents are good people who are going to live by some sort of moral code. They
or
are
give us our rights, our abstract rights.
Right. Look,
not gonna happen.
This ain't the age of the Tea Party libertarians. This is the age of the scumbag.
True. Margot says, in getting the call after last week's events, how quick is Fuentes losing any credibility he had with his fan base? So he is losing a lot of his fan base. He's calling them the low IQ right. He's saying his people are coping about it and saying, I saw someone say, we don't need the masses. The masses are stupid. We just need our elite clique. Right. So it's not, I mean, he's still grown from this Charlie Kirk situation. He's emerging as the new sort of face of the right. But that being said, this really tore up his audience and had a lot of people on the fence. Or I saw someone saying Nick is dead to me, or a handful of people saying stuff like that. And his views were down too. That I don't want to, downplay his base of support and his subculture. It is very large. It is concerningly large, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. And I still think his trajectory is probably going upwards in terms of popularity and influence and control in the Republican Party. That being said, he's getting bodied by Candace Owens on this video, on this issue, who's now pulling like 200,000 to 300,000 concurrent viewers on her stream. And he's getting bodied by us in a lot of ways. And I just want to say, if you're out there and you're questioning Nick Fuentes, if you were formerly a fan, we understand how in this era of political turmoil, you could go towards that ideology. We're not these leftists who are going to sit here and cancel you and say you're a piece of shit and we don't understand how you could ever believe this stuff. Because Fuentes does make these arguments very convincingly. He plays off of Israel's crimes in order to turn people towards anti-Semitism. That's his grift for the last 2-3 years at least. And I understand how you could fall for that with all of Israel's crimes. But keep your mind open and keep seeking truth, and you will realize that this race essentialist ideology doesn't give you a concrete understanding and analysis of the system around you, and it certainly doesn't offer a solution. Race war is not a solution for America's economic problems, for debt trapping and endless war spending. Class war, the seizure of political power by the working class, is the solution. Fighting each other over our races is what the ruling class wants us to do. So please, research communism. Be skeptical of everything that the media and Nick Fuentes and the ruling class institutions have told you about communism, because it's the real solution for this country. And we'll never reject you or say, you know, we don't want to help you learn or help or organize with you because of what you followed and what you believed in the past. Everybody can change. Everybody can grow. Everybody can change their mind. And we're here to help people change their mind. No pun intended.
Following Fuentes neuters you. Think about it. He hates his audience, by the way. He calls them ugly and stupid constantly. He's a kid who's very obsessed with the looks of other men. But that's a whole nother bag of bananas. Look, it neuters you. It takes away your agency and ability to actually do anything to fix the real problems. Our problems can be traced to real causes. You don't need to just like sit there in your basement crying and whining like he does, right? You can get off your ass, nut up, and fight back. You can actually do that. Right? And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about an actual political struggle. Right? It does the same thing as the woke leftists do. Right? When they race essentialize, and I love that term, Eddie, they blame everything on the straight white male, right? And therefore, there's no longer anything but an abstract enemy. Same as with Fuentes and the Jew, right? It's just this abstract, vague nothing that keeps you spinning your wheels and going nowhere. How long has Fuentes been around? I don't know.
6 years, probably.
It's a while, right?
Actually, probably more like 8.
In those 8 years, what have they actually accomplished?
It's just like Guy said, he's not calling for people to organize. He's not calling for people to do anything. So what's the solution? What's the way out? What's the way to transform our country for the better? He has none.
He has no solution other than this like stupid fantasy about America balkanizing by race. Look, it's 2025. That ain't gonna happen, son. It just ain't. Like when you live on the internet like that, and you're like enclosed in the safe space you built for yourself on your Discord servers and all that, I could see how you could run with that. But go get a job and you'll see that ain't going to happen, right? You're never going to have this fantasy you have. So you have to begin looking at how to actually influence the real world. And this is what the Communist Party does. We build within the communities we're already in, right? You can look at any of our chapters and all the work they're doing. It's helping, people who own a small business that got destroyed in a storm or something, rebuild it, right? Helping connect that community and building those bonds up. Because as the shit hits the fan, those bonds are what cannot break.
Absolutely. That's how you know if someone's real or if they're fake. What are they doing to actually change the world? What are they doing on the ground? How are they using their influence to push people? What's the solution that they offer? With Fuentes, it's race war that would undercut the very foundation of our country. With us, it's class struggle that would overthrow the parasitic ruling class in this country and transform it into one that we can all be proud of, that takes care of all the working people. Michelle, YouTube member, longtime supporter and donor. Thank you, Michelle. Vincent Corbeau with the $5, who says, great to see Noah. We'll get hope you'll get to renew your show soon. P.S. Were those Fuentes Destiny rumors true? Because they feel believable. They do feel believable. I looked into those. I don't actually think they're true. I think there was some outlet in India that reported on it because it was funny for clickbait. I don't think it was true that Fuentes was hooking up with Destiny. Although if it happened in the past, I wouldn't be surprised. They both have the same politics, essentially.
And they're both cynical actors, right? They're both saying what works in the moment for a goal, not what they actually believe. And thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate that, brother.
Yes.
We've been trying to get the reboot of the show going for a minute now. It'll take a little more time, but it's almost ready.
You should do it on Streamlabs when you do it, if you can. So
that's
we can
part of the
transition
reboot.
Off of StreamYard. Good.
Yeah,
Just making sure. What's funny about Destiny and Nick Fuentes is they're like buddies. Like Destiny would get in trouble from leftists for talking to Fuentes, and he would never cave because he liked Nick Fuentes. And when they were all on with Haas, they kind of like ganged up on Haas together, which is, and now you have Fuentes saying anybody who laughed at the death of Charlie Kirk should be arrested and put on a list. And then Destiny saying everybody should laugh at the death of Charlie Kirk. And if you don't, you say that it's wrong, then you're a cuck, right? Which is ironic that he would call anyone else a cuck. But you have these people who are like best buddies who are now pushing two sides of the same coin with this issue. The one who's feeding the right wing by making jokes about or making light of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And then you have the right wing who's using that to call for censorship. And these two are buddies because, again, they are two sides of the same coin. At the foundational level, they do believe a lot of the same things. And again, Destiny's audience is more similar in culture to this Tyler Robinson character, and it's more similar in culture to the Roipers than it is to us. Our audience is disgusted with Destiny and always has been. So
it's exactly what the ruling elites want from us. They want this entire thing framed, and the entire country framed, as a war between left and right. And so Destiny picks up the left end of this, and Fuentes picks up the right end of it. And they point people at each other, right?
Working people.
Exactly. And the problem is, and look, this could very well spill over into a civil war. This could build up into that, right? This could be like a tipping point moment. And it reminds me a lot of the Bolshevik line on World War I, right? When they said to turn the war into a civil war. Though what we would have is actually a civil war that we would need to turn into a class war, right? Now, this is all hypothetical. We do not condone violence of any sort. We are all law-abiding citizens.
Self-defense, baby.
But yeah, make sure you know how to defend yourself.
But you're going to need that self-defense. And it might, again, like Noah said, it might not be the class war. It is the class conditions that will ignite the civil war, but it might be a civil war within the ruling class at first. And then we have to transform that into a class struggle by getting people to fight for their own interests, for communism, for socialism, which is just the seizure of political power by the working class, and the transition out of this outdated capitalist mode of production. No, I've got a couple more things that I want to cover, but I'm gonna again check in with you because I know it's late and say you're free to dip out whenever. But
I'm good, brother. Let's keep going.
Good? Yeah. All right, sweet, perfect.
It's very late for me. This is a special night. I'm coming back, right?
Let's go. So this is something Fuentes said, and this was perfect because I've been saying that he is a wannabe Netanyahu for over a year now. I listen to his streams every now and again so I can know how to refute his arguments and know what the right wing believes. I keep an eye on them. I have been for the last 2-3 years. And what I see is that he's a wannabe Netanyahu. He's jealous of the Israelis. He wants to do the same thing that they're doing, but instead of Jewish supremacy at the core, have white supremacy at the core. So he basically admitted that. He proved what I've been saying for years, and finally I was able to get a tweet to kind of blow up where I say that he's a wannabe Netanyahu, something that I've said 1,000 times, now is getting more traction than ever. Because he said there's a lesson to be learned from the Israelis. The whole world is turned against Israel, and yet they're able to keep doing what they do. And the reason is because they are more organized and more solid than any other group. And they have racial supremacy as the core of their ideology, which is what he really admires about them. And I said, wannabe Netanyahu, bro, just wants Israel, but for white Christians. He's not opposing the Zionists. He is jealous of them. Almost 800 likes on that. It is so true. It is so true. And we've always said that Israel and Zionism is just Nazi ideology, but taken for Jewish supremacy rather than whatever other racial group, rather than anti-Jewish supremacy. And it converts that into a Jewish form. It's Nazism in a Jewish form. And Fuentes is very close to Nazi ideology, neo-Nazi ideology. So it's just Zionist ideology, but for a different race, for his group instead of Jews. So, I mean, he's saying the quiet part out loud here. This is the core of his whole ideology, is white Zionism.
I don't mean to distract from that very good point, but how am I the only one that thinks this kid looks like a frog? And look at that. Pull it back up for just a second.
Oh, I X'd out already.
All right, never mind then. He looks like a goddamn frog. It's insane to me. Why? Like, I thought like everyone would be like, "Holy shit, he does," but I guess not.
I mean, maybe that's why they're called the frogs. I don't know.
Maybe.
I was just really cooking his ass on X this week. So here he said, Nick Fuentes says the Jews, again, not the Zionists, not Israeli intelligence assets, which is who actually took over TikTok, Unit 8200 of the Israeli cyber warfare intelligence division. So basically the Mossad took over TikTok, but he just says it's the Jews. So he doesn't actually have to explain to his audience what's happening concretely. Personal friend of Netanyahu who has historically given tens of millions of dollars to the IDF. That's not even the half of it. So that's not all the information with who's taking over TikTok. But anyways, the people who bought TikTok immediately banned Jackson when TikTok implemented their new community guidelines. And what they used to ban him was his videos talking about Israel's potential connections to the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Mm-hmm.
So Nick is talking about how Zionists are buying TikTok, but he doesn't want to talk about the specific narratives that they're censoring because he's pushing the same narrative that these Zionists are.
And you know what I find ironic and strange? Whenever they want to talk about communism badly, they talk about censorship. We are watching like insane levels of censorship right now within capitalism, within imperialism. And not only are they only concerned that the Jews are buying TikTok, but they're not concerned about the censorship. In fact, they are calling for more censorship. So why is
the Zionists are in power, but they want them to censor us more?
Right.
It's just insane.
It's this disgusting hypocrisy that is just like based on like what seems to me this childish I want. You know what I mean? Like just this gross sign of the times. It makes me want to like ask why these kids like dads never slapped them when they were kids or something.
Their fathers failed them for sure.
They really did.
So then Nick went and did an interview with Russell Brand, who is a buddy of Rabbi Shmuley. After he got accused of sexual crimes by the entire media, he took a hardcore pro-Zionist turn, right? Russell Brand's show used to be pretty decent, and then they have blackmail on him or something, and all of a sudden he started doing these appearances with Rabbi Shmuley and talking about how as a Christian he supports Israel and blah, blah, blah. He's probably compromised because he spent years being a degenerate. But anyways, then he has Nick Fuentes on without a shirt for some reason, which was, I don't know what to say about that. But I just said, will Rabbi Shmuley be there for your interview?
You got like a different kind of the call?
What? Oh, yeah.
Like from Fuentes?
Russell, take your shirt off.
Right. Like I'm only doing this if you don't wear a shirt.
Okay, what else did I do here? Oh yeah, one of his fans said, "You wear tights," and I said, "What's gayer, the tights with me looking jacked, or the Catboy ears?" Nick on a date with a man. That got pretty good likes. This one talking about the Catboy ear date. This one calling him Rachel Maddow for Russia gating. That was pretty good. Here's another one that kind of blew up, him with some guy who's in prison right now for threatening to shoot up TPUSA. And yet he says we're the ones who promoted a culture of violence. We're the ones who are responsible for Charlie Kirk's death because of Jackson Hinkle's tweets. When meanwhile, his audience was literally planning to shoot up TPUSA. And he was taking pictures with them.
Yo, dude, go to the super chats.
So he wants to do guilt by association shit. Why did you guys take down your Discord after Charlie Kirk was killed, Nick Fuentes?
We were just talking about this. They're upset. Like, they cannot think.
Thank you for the money.
Think at
We
all.
don't have an ACP Discord. Haas's Discord is cleared regularly and was cleared not directly after the assassination, but 2 days after they got raided and a bunch of people were posting graphic content, which is regular practice for the infrared Discord. So that's your guys' evidence. The ACP Discord, which doesn't exist, cleared its chats, which was actually infrared, doing it days after the shooting had already happened as part of a regular operation that they do every time there's a crisis in this country and people are violating their terms of service. And then, because there's no hard evidence, Nick Fuentes says, well, you promote the culture of violence towards right-wingers. Right, we promote Jackson Hinkle's tweets create transgenders who shoot Charlie Kirk or whatever, right? When there's a picture of him with someone who tried to shoot TPUSA. So whose audience has a culture of violence and a culture that promotes shooting Charlie Kirk? Is it the people who have had nothing to do with that ever, who cleared out their Discord one time or a bunch of times? Or is it the guy whose audience members are planning to shoot TPUSA up? I mean,
and we shouldn't even get into the child pornography thing, but like, look,
right, that this guy was also caught with that,
and I'm
who's surprised.
I will assume that a lot more of these kids are in that weird shit because it's an outgrowth of the old 4chan transgression for its own sake, right? You know, it's but these kids wonder why we call them so stupid. You know, like, dude, kid, think just for a minute, please. Just think. That's all you got to do.
This was my best one here. Where is this? This was my best. So when Fuentes was calling for Jackson Hinkle to be arrested by the FBI because Haas cleared his Discord chats for the 100th time, as if that's evidence of anything.
By the way, speaking of a culture of violence, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Eddie, but I'm going to forget this. This kid, Fuentes, literally wanted to have Jackson killed.
Yeah, he called for Jackson to be a missile strike by the U.S. government.
And joked about this. And we promote a culture of violence? What a fucking... Sorry.
We've never called to do that to any right-wing figure. We've called to maybe have them do labor. We've called to make them go work on a farm and do a hard day's work for once in their life. But we've never called for violence in that way, and especially never promoted state violence because we are actually opposed to the U.S. government and the people who control it and run it. Nick Fuentes claims to be, but then he cheers them on if they're attacking someone that he doesn't like. So that's what he was doing right here, calling for the FBI to arrest Jackson Hinkle because he said Bella Ciao, which is like a very old popular song that emerged during the anti-fascist resistance in Italy. So he tags the FBI, and the Zionist influencer, the notorious Zionist influencer Vivid, who's an Indian guy that pretends to be an IDF soldier and tweets about how great Israel is all day, responded to Nick Fuentes' tweet and joined in saying, at FBI, get him. So I said, Nick Fuentes now has the Indian Zionist influencer Vivid on his side. Great friend group you're making there, Nick. Interesting audience he's attracting with this new pro-Zionist turn. That got over 3,000 likes. If you have Vivid on your side, you are on the wrong side of history. If you have some random scammer in India who's a Zionist shill, a shill for Netanyahu in Israel, on your side, helping you to fight against your enemies, you are on the wrong side. I'm sorry. That guy is the biggest scumbag on X, and he is against, allegedly, he supports everything that Nick Fuentes claims to be against. Yet here they are on the same side, calling for the U.S. State Department to crack down on pro-Palestinian voices, on dissenting voices. What a clown.
And you know why we don't do that kind of thing, Eddie? Because we don't need to, right? Because very simple, we are right and they are wrong. And we will debate them and prove that. That's why Fuentes has been running from Haas forever now. Because he's a scared little pussy that asks other people to get rid of these people he's afraid of for him.
There's a reason we're willing to debate our ideas and we don't have to arrest our enemies. It's because we believe in our ideas, because we can defend them against anyone of any ideology, and we're non-dogmatic. So if somebody proves us wrong on a certain point, we want to be proved wrong so that we can change our worldview and adjust them to meet the facts. If there's facts that we don't have that would change the way we see a certain event, we want to hear those facts. So we're not scared of anything. Ask yourself why. Why is he so scared of the debate with Oz? Why? It's because he is not that confident in his ideas. He is dogmatic. He has this dogmatic belief that everything is about racial struggle and about different racial groups. And he knows he would get bodied by someone who actually believes in their worldview. This was another banger I had when the Republican establishment promises to give you a seat at the table, and it's him in an IDF uniform. I don't know if I had any Groypers are literally Riddler's followers from the Batman 2022. Oh yeah, and then I had this video that got 2,000 likes. The ACP doesn't even have a Discord server, you fucking moron, blaming us while covering for Israel. Very interesting behavior, almost 700 likes. It's just, oh, here's another one. Fuentes is now covering for Israel while trying to frame the ACP with zero evidence. What a slimy little rat this kid is. Over 500 likes. Straight up mentioning the ACP. Nick Fuentes talked so much shit about Charlie Kirk when he was alive that by the right wing's own logic, he should be arrested for inciting violence. True. He said he fucked and impregnated Charlie Kirk's organization by force. So
yeah, they're doing really terribly now.
Yeah, so those were my contributions to the roast of Nick Fuentes that's been going off on X for the past few days. I'd love to see yours. Please keep them coming. Please keep calling him out on his hypocrisy and showing his fans that actually genuinely want to see a change in this country, showing them the truth and showing them who he actually serves, whether it's he's directly connected to State Department entities or not. That is who he serves regardless. Keep it up. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, that seems like a good spot to wrap. What do you think, brother?
It probably is. I want to watch this Caroline Borisenko thing so bad, though. Can you suffer through that with me?
Let's do it. I gotta use the old whiz powers first.
Okay,
I've already seen it, so go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Is this the right thing? All right. Here's Noah's old friend, Caroline Borisenko on Fox News, I guess. This is Noah debated this lady. She's like a crazy ANCAP anti-communist. She like platformed a bunch of trots the other day and was like, here's what real communists think of the ACP. And it was like these woke Trotskyite leftists like shitting on us. Because she wants people to think that communism is woke. Communism is just radical liberalism. So us being real communists kind of busts up her whole narrative. So she's now bringing on Trotskyite leftists to prove that Marxism actually is woke and the ACP actually is woke and communism actually is just radical liberalism. So why don't you date Nick Fuentes? Because unlike him, I'm into women. Thank you for the $5.
House pulled the plug, and Jimmy Kimmel's not happy. ABC suspended his late-night show indefinitely. He was spotted storming out of the studio last.
I'm not sure if this is the right thing. I don't think this is Caroline Borisenko. No, this is a different thing. Dang it. Jesse Waters posts too much bullshit. I can't find it, Noah. I don't think this is it.
No, that's not it. I want to say something because, like, I heard you as I was in the Wiz Palace talking about how she was the one that said we're not the real communists.
So funny.
It's kind of hilarious. It goes back though to what we were talking about earlier about pro-felicity. Look, her individual identity and the aesthetics that she's brought in that defines her will not allow her to call us the actual communists. She needs to have something she can hate as the real communist. So, like, when we come along and we're actually fucking right about everything and we're not these insane maniacs, that can't possibly be the real communist for her because she's already predetermined based on that aesthetic, that profile, that the real communists have to be something worth loathing.
Bro, I just can't stop thinking of jokes related to her appearance right now. I just started laughing my ass off when I pulled her up on the screen, just seeing her. Why is she green? She's really leaning into the Shrek jokes. She wants me to call her Fiona so bad.
I was talking about an army of Frankensteins earlier, but that's not what I meant.
Why is she fucking green, dude? She literally looks like Fiona's ogre form. I'm sorry.
It's like when I had that terrible overhead light and everything in my office was yellow.
It is, dude. But that was funny to see her hosting the Trot Radlib leftist, because I've been saying for years that the right wing's job is to tell everybody that communism is just radical liberalism and identity politics, and then the left wing's job, the CIA left's job, is to actually push that. Say, yes, we are about the culture war and identity politics. So now you have a right winger bringing on these radical leftists, radical libtards, openly working together to smear the real communists. So it's like seeing the whole CIA plot that I've been tracking and writing about for years, like in real time, where you have a right winger trying to say Marxism is woke next to left wingers who are like, yes, it is woke. Don't listen to these ACP guys. But anyways, here's Karlin Borisenko looking green as hell. She needs to see a doctor. Holy shit.
That's a lot of eye makeup.
Oh, here's this one. Come on, turn on.
Train. Karlin Borisenko is an undercover investigative journalist for Decode the Left who's infiltrated these terror cells. Karlin, tell me about how these people train. They look pretty militaristic.
So what the hell is this video? Katie Davis Court in Portland, Oregon. Oh, so it's just some like libs in Oregon protesting?
I think it's probably her going undercover. Like she like knows like the way like wokes talk and like basically that's about it. She tricks them into thinking that she's woke too.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. They do have sessions where they bring in people with military experience. Anti-war is a very big thing for Antifa, so they do hand-to-hand combat trainings. I was just undercover with them in New York City over the weekend where they had...
Excuse me, did she say anti-war is big for them, so they do hand-to-hand combat training?
Where they bring in people with military experience. Anti-war is a very big thing for Antifa, so they do hand-to-hand combat.
Anti-war is a big thing, so they bring in people with military experience to train them for war? Also, who's bringing them in? Who runs Antifa? Where is their headquarters? Who is doing this? Who's doing these trainings? Who's organizing them? Who?
That vague they, right?
They.
Do you think she's saying they're anti-war and that's big for them, so they can't do actual war training, so instead they do hand-to-hand combat, like they're taking boxing lessons?
Okay, that must be it.
Like that's a really scary way to say boxing lessons at liberal events.
Yeah, right. Debate Nick Fuentes or be a coward. I would love to, but you're sending the wrong guy. You're sending the wrong guy super chats. He's the one who's scared to debate us. So go to his chat, say debate Midwestern Marx or infrared, or you're a coward, because we have always been down to debate. He's the one running away.
trainings. I was just undercover with them in New York City over the weekend, where they had a whole self-defense class where they were teaching people how to violently, confront the police, but also defend themselves if they needed to be put in that position.
And why do they always get out of jail so quickly? You see all these people get popped, they get bailed right out and charged.
So libs are teaching like people self-defense stuff, which actually ain't a bad thing. And she just like twisted it into this like scary sounding thing where they're like a whole paramilitary operation now.
Well,
Do you
yeah,
guys see how like big of a stretch that was?
it's like, if you're this investigative journalist, explain to us what Antifa actually is. If it's this paramilitary organization, who's running it? Who's the leader? How does the power structure work? Who is organizing this? It's this amorphous thing that just allows the state to say, we're cracking down on Antifa, and we're not going to tell you who that is, but it's anybody training themselves in self-defense, or anybody who's anti-war. So there's no investigative journalism here at all. I had something else I was going to say, but I can't remember.
Charges never stick. How is that?
Oh, the charges never stick. I mean, if we're talking about that, if we're talking about super radical leftists who like to inflame protests to be violent, that's what the CIA and the FBI do. And if you're looking at people who are inflaming protests to be violent so that they can entrap people, and then the people who do that getting let off by the courts, those are CIA and FBI agents.
And Fuentes did that on Jan 6th.
Right, exactly.
He was like encouraging people to, Jesus Christ.
And there were CIA and FBI agents crawling all over J6, inciting the protest to be violent, telling people to storm the Capitol so that the liberals could say that Trump tried to do a coup and have something to rail against him about for the next 4 years without actually being any different than him. All those people who didn't get super harsh charges were federal agents. They were crawling all over J6.
Like a bunch of Proud Boys leadership ended up being snitches. And it came out then. Like, I don't know. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, Antifa, actually, they train people on how to get arrested. And it's interesting with far left subcultures because they actually volunteer to get arrested and go through this type of training where they are providing.
That is true, actually. I don't know about Antifa because I don't know who organizes that, but that is a thing on the left, like in radical environmentalist spaces and stuff. They'll teach you how to get arrested to cause a scene.
Provided legal support, they are provided lawyers, they are provided all of this stuff with mutual aid. And so as soon as they get arrested, Antifa basically goes down to the jail and they bail them out, and they are all set up with a lawyer and ready to go. So they plan all of this stuff out ahead of time, and they have the resources set up for people to be able to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Where are the resources coming from? Who's paying for this shit? Who is Antifa? That's the question you have to answer. She's actually making them, she's like, they do mutual aid and they train themselves in self-defense and they're anti-war. So what? Antifa is just anybody who's doing something that's good? Antifa is anyone doing mutual aid who's anti-war and does self-defense training? Those all sound like good things.
Good God, Americans who got arrested have a right to a lawyer? And they can actually get one? No.
But the real question here is, who is Antifa and who did the government just designate as a terror group? Because right now they're just setting it up to be every single leftist, which if we're all can be considered Antifa then, because we're not fascist, well, what's to stop them from arresting all of us and saying we're all a part of Charlie Kirk's assassination? And who's pushing that? Who's pushing that kind of narrative? Nicholas J. Fuentes.
I mean, obviously someone's paying for their legal representation. What is the core mission of Antifa? Is it anarchy? Are they anarchists?
Yeah, Antifa are anarchists. Their primary goal is the violent overthrow of the federal government. I cannot emphasize this enough. We've been hearing a lot of talk about civil war over the last couple of years between Democrats and Republicans, red versus blue. I firmly believe that the real civil war we have coming is the radical revolutionary socialists and communists in Antifa versus the federal government. That is their goal. That is their only goal. And people need to start taking this problem.
Antifa is going to take on the federal government
very, very seriously.
These kids.
Carlin.
No information about who their leader is. No information about who's them. Just these guys want to overthrow the government. They're evil. They're coming for you. We should have the government crack down on them.
And that was it. Ridiculous, right?
It's so stupid, and it's so obvious what they're doing. Just setting up the conditions for the government to crack down on any of us and say, ACP, you're Antifa.
And they're like picking on, like, let's be real. They're picking on leftist nerds. Like,
yes. And then trying to lump us in with them.
They're not like rightist militia types that are like for real and gung ho. They're just LARPing nerds in college who found a social group that they like.
And an outlet for their rage and angst.
Right. And they go to protests and they act real anarchy, and that's it. They've been around forever. They've never done anything. They're mostly harmless. No, there's a few nutsos here and there, but it's not because they're Antifa.
Right. And I mean, to the extent that Antifa does exist, and, you know, there are people who dress up as Antifa or claim to be Antifa, and they go to protests and they incite violence, and they do these things. But I'd be willing to bet millions of dollars that there are federal provocateurs involved in that. I know Antifa doesn't have any organizational structure, so it's hard to say if it's run by the feds, because it's not run by anyone. But feds are absolutely involved in stoking these flames and doing these Antifa actions. And that's created the perfect conditions for a federal crackdown now. Because, as I said, they're this amorphous organization with no leader and no head, and they say, we are all Antifa. The government can say, okay, all the left is Antifa, you're all going to jail, you're all getting drone striked, at which point I think we'll see a civil war. But these are the conditions that these Antifa super soldiers have created too, which is why I think there's probably Fed involvement in a lot of their actions, if you can even call them actions, with them not being a real group. But
like the way they present it is just so ludicrous. Where like they're the people that do the black bloc LARP type thing, like they're very, very public in saying anyone telling you to engage in violence is a cop.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
because they don't want their people, you know, getting arrested. When they train people how to get arrested, they do it for like impact. They do it as a show so they can, you know, like try to get it on the media and stuff. That's what it is, guys.
Absolutely. Well, Noah, I think we covered everything today. We got through everything I wanted to cover. Thanks for hanging out with me. I know this is a super late night for you, especially to go 2.5 hours, but I think it was a good stream.
Definitely, brother. It was great. We covered a lot of important stuff. I hope people will actually listen to some of the stuff we were saying, like really take it to heart. Like obviously you're listening, but like think on it.
Yes. And for the fans, patreon.com/MidwesternMarks is the best place to support us. You can check out our books and other things at midwesternmarks.com. Noah, for the fans, do you know when Noah's show will return?
As soon as Sebastian learns Streamlabs. All
right. So
we have most of the stuff ready to go. It's about learning software right now. So it should be soon. My schedule's evened out. We're good. My union schedule, my work, all that stuff is good now. So
we will be transitioning to Streamlabs soon. So thank you for suffering with us here on StreamYard, which I know is for amateurs, but we're leveling up here at Midwestern Marks. And we'll get the Metal Gear Red podcast on Streamlabs here soon too. But yeah, thank you all for sitting through this with us. acp.us to join the struggle. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one and all. So come, brothers and sisters, struggle carries on. The International unites the world in song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. Let no one build walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us. We'll live together or we'll die alone. In our world poisoned by exploitation, those who have taken, now they must give. And end the vanity of nations. We've but one earth on which to live. So come brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama in the streets and in the fields. We stand unbowed before their armor. We defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. For though they offer us concessions, change will not come from above. So come brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International